This is Misumai Yushin. He's a total loner who doesn't have a single friend in class, spending his time on mobile games and working out. He's an introvert through and through, feeling like he has absolutely nothing in common with his classmates. While everyone else makes plans for karaoke, Yushin realizes he forgot his pencil case and heads back to the classroom. On the way, he overhears a group of girls talking at the lockers. Nanami Barato, the most popular girl in class, lost a card game and now has to face a punishment. Her friends decide she has to confess to the quietest guy in class. Yushin realizes with a shock that they're talking about him. Nanami isn't exactly thrilled about playing with someone's feelings, but her friends keep egging her on, teasing her about being single. She tries to stand her ground, but they just mock her for not knowing how to talk to guys. They claim this is the perfect chance for her to get some experience before some weirdo tries something. Nanami is known for being impregnable and turning down every guy. Yushin thinks whoever she dates is going to be the most hated man in school. The friends finalize the plan. She has to confess to Yushin tomorrow. He's standing just around the corner, hearing every word. Nanami eventually gives in. Her friends are already imagining it like some classic shoujo manga scene. Later that night, Yushin is back home. He doesn't have anyone to talk to at school, but his online guild is always there for him. He asks his online friends for advice. Baron, a knight in their game, tells him to just accept it and use it as a chance to get used to girls. Canyon, the guild's mage, is totally against the idea. She thinks it's cruel to mess with someone's heart and tells him to say no. Baron argues that even if it's a prank, his reputation will go up. Better to be dumped by a popular girl than to have never dated one. He even suggests that Yushin should try to make her fall for him for real during the month they're together. Yushin asks if Baron is just enjoying the drama. Baron doesn't deny it and tells him to make sure he reports back. The next day at school, Nanami actually walks up to his desk. She asks if he has some time to talk after classes are over. Yushin looks at her, thinking about her gal style and how she's surprisingly kind to everyone. He feels like he doesn't have any right to turn her down, especially with all eyes on them. He still can't quite believe this is happening. He admits he's a bit weak to her charms. He's curious to see where this confession actually goes. School ends, and he meets her in a quiet spot behind the building. Nanami is incredibly nervous, her face glowing red. Yushin is just as stiff. He wonders if she knows that he knows the truth. He decides to stay quiet and let her speak. She struggles to get the words out. Yushin remembers Baron's advice. Look her in the eye instead of staring at her body. She finally screams it at the top of her lungs. I have a crush on you. Just as she asks him to be her boyfriend, someone accidentally tips over a bucket of water from a window above. Yushin reacts instantly, lunging forward to push Nanami out of the way. He takes the full hit of the water. The impact sends them both to the ground, with Yushin pinned on top of her. He blacks out and wakes up a while later in the school infirmary, feeling a bit dazed. He slowly recalls the chaos, seeing the bucket falling and rushing to save her. Nanami is right there by the bed, looking incredibly relieved that he's finally awake. She's just happy he isn't seriously injured. Yushin asks if she's okay, and she thanks him for saving her. As he sits up, the blanket drops, revealing his bare chest. Nanami turns bright red, getting a good look at his surprisingly athletic build. She didn't expect a guy who looked so skinny to be that well-defined. Yushin is just as flustered. The school nurse walks in and catches them both blushing like crazy. She hands Yushin a clean uniform to change into. Sensei mentions that Nanami hasn't left his side since he was brought in. Yushin gets dressed and heads out with Nanami. He thanks her again for looking after him while he was out. He realizes he still hasn't given her an answer to the confession that got interrupted by the water bucket. He takes a breath and looks her straight in the eyes, following Baron's advice. He tells her he'd be happy to date her. Nanami is completely stunned, barely able to believe he said yes. She's on the verge of tears. She's so overwhelmed with joy, she feels like she might pass out. Yushin is left wondering why her reaction is so intense. Nanami is still blushing, her heart racing as she confirms they're a couple now. Yushin is just as red, admitting he's not used to calling girls by their first names. Yushin reaches out, taking a leap of faith. He tells her it's okay, and asks if they can start using each other's first names. Nanami's face lights up with a radiant smile as she shakes his hand. She formally introduces herself, and for a second, Yushin is mesmerized. As they seal the deal with a handshake, Yushin can't shake the thought of the punishment game. He knows this is just a dare for her, and he tells himself not to get too carried away. Suddenly, the school nurse, a sharp woman in a lab coat, interrupts the romantic moment. She's all smiles as she congratulates the young couple. But then she drops a bombshell of sex education advice, telling them to keep it high school appropriate and use protection. Both of them lose it, screaming at her in embarrassment. They finally leave the infirmary and start walking home together. It's painfully quiet, and Yushin thinks about how they're only dating for a month, so the nurse's warning was way over the top. The silence is deafening. Nanami tries to break it by talking about the weather, while Yushin kicks himself for not asking his online buddy Baron for tips on how to handle this. Nanami stops and suggests they exchange contact information. She's blushing again, holding her phone close. Yushin admits he doesn't really use messaging apps except to follow official game accounts. Nanami finds it hilarious and can't help but giggle as he pulls out his phone. The swap is successful. Nanami is overjoyed, realizes she's actually the very first contact of his phone. Yushin is still confused, wondering why she's so happy about a fake relationship. They reach the station and realize they're taking different trains. Nanami waves a bright goodbye, leaving Yushin standing there, wondering if that sad look he saw on her face was just his imagination. On the train ride home, Yushin keeps thinking about that fleeting moment of sadness. He wonders if she's feeling guilty because the whole thing started as a dare. Once he's back in his room, he dives straight back into his online world, meeting up with his guild mates in a virtual tavern. Baron, the knight with the glasses, is impressed. He jokingly asks if Yushin is some kind of superhero in training for saving a girl on his first day of dating. Canyon, the mage girl, is still the voice of reason or doom. She tells him to break it off now before someone's heart actually gets smashed. But Baron has a more ambitious plan. Baron sets a high-stakes goal for the week. Yushin needs to hold hands with Nanami by Friday. Canyon is absolutely appalled by the suggestion. Yushin is still processing the mission when his phone chirps. It's a message from Nanami, and his heart skips a beat. He stares at the screen, his face heating up. She wants to walk to school together tomorrow morning. He spends forever crafting a reply, trying to sound cool, but ending up with something incredibly stiff. He tells her he'd be happy to walk with her at 7:30. After he hits send, he stares at the receipt, his nerves on edge. Baron and Canyon continue their bickering in his head. Baron tells him to prioritize her above everything else, including his games. Yushin takes the advice to heart. He tells his guild he's heading out early to prepare for the big day and logs off. Lying in bed, he looks at his phone one last time. The reality of having a girlfriend is finally starting to sink in. Meanwhile, Nanami is back at her place, absolutely losing it. She's rolling around on her bed, kicking her feet in pure, unadulterated joy. We get a glimpse in her past. Despite being the most popular girl in school, she's actually never confessed to anyone in her life. Boys are always trying to hit on her, like this one classmate who thinks he has a shot just because they've known each other for a while. She shuts him down without a second thought. That's when she first noticed Yushin in the hallway, the one guy who never even looked her way. Her friends thought her phobia of guys was becoming a problem, so they came up with the dare. She had to confess to the one guy who seemed the most harmless. But when she actually did it, she was surprised. Yushin was the first boy who looked her straight in the eyes instead of staring at her body like everyone else. Then there was that moment with the water. He didn't even hesitate to throw himself over her to protect her. Even soaked and shivering, his first thought was to ask if she was okay. It was a level of kindness she wasn't expecting. She had rushed to get help, her heart pounding for a completely different reason. Waiting outside the infirmary, she couldn't stop thinking about how surprisingly fit he was. The image of his athletic build was burned into her mind. When he finally woke up, she was so nervous she could barely speak. She had to ask one more time for his answer. And then he said yes. He actually said yes. Nanami was flooded with a mix of pure happiness and a nagging sense of guilt. On the walk home, she was so overwhelmed she couldn't find the words to say. She felt like she was doing something cruel by starting this as a dare. But even that brief moment of exchanging contact info made her feel like she was floating. She made it home in a complete daze. Back in her room, her phone is buzzing with messages from her friends, but she's only focused on the simple greeting Yushin sent. She looks at his game avatar and wonders if he likes girls who look like that. She starts thinking about changing her hairstyle to catch his eye. She reads his message about walking to school over and over, moved by his simple words. She started to realize these feelings are becoming very, very real. The next morning, Yushin is at the station way before their meeting time. He showed up an hour early just to make sure she wouldn't have to wait for even a second. Yushin is early to the station, waiting by a pillar and checking his phone. The clock shows it's only 6:36, nearly an hour before their meeting time. He's surprised to see Nanami already walking towards him. Nanami spots him and runs over, looking slightly worried that she's the one who's late. Yushin quickly reassures her that he just arrived even earlier than expected. Nanami mentions she had something small to take care of first. Nanami greets him with a radiant, blushing smile. Yushin can't help but feel his heart race, even as he reminds himself that this relationship started as a punishment game dare. He tells himself not to get carried away. Nanami is genuinely happy that they both came early, as it means they get more time together. Yushin admits he was really nervous since it's the first time he's ever met a girl like this. Nanami giggles, finding his honesty endearing. Nanami turns around, showing off her hair, which is elegantly braided today. Yushin remembers Baron's advice about complimenting even small changes. He realizes her hairstyle looks familiar, like a character from one of his games. He tells her it looks really good on her, which sends Nanami into a fit of shy giggles. She admits she wanted to try this style specifically for him. Yushin is stunned by her sweetness and the fact she did it with him in mind. Nanami pulls out her phone and shows him an anime character with the same hairstyle, asking if that's the kind of style he likes. Yushin gets flustered and tries to play it cool, but Nanami can tell he's genuinely charmed. Nanami is beaming with joy, her eyes shining as she thanks him. Yushin is overwhelmed by how cute she is, especially on such a perfect day. He's proud of himself for actually being able to say those words to her. As they walk together, Nanami shyly suggests they hold hands. Yushin is internally screaming, realizing he's about to clear the hand-holding goal Baron set for him on the very first day. Other students notice them and start whispering. Yushin assumes they're pitying Nanami for having to date someone like him. He feels guilty, thinking she's just putting on a show for the punishment game. Nanami, however, looks genuinely content as their fingers interlock. Nanami stops him and points a finger, telling him to stop talking about himself that way. She wants their relationship to be on equal footing. Yushin is surprised by her firm stance, wondering if she really cares that much. Yushin looks at her, seeing her serious expression. He wonders what kind of face she'd make if he told her he knew about the punishment game. The thought makes him hesitate, but he eventually nods, agreeing to her terms. They enter the school together, and the atmosphere is thick with shock. Students can't believe the loner and the most popular girl are actually together. Yushin is embarrassed, while Nanami holds on to him even tighter. They reach the classroom, where Nanami's friends, Hatsumi and Ayumi, are waiting. They're the ones who came up with the dare, and they're both surprised and impressed that Nanami is actually going through with it so boldly. Nanami introduces Yushin to her friends, linking her arm with his. The other students are in an absolute uproar. Hatsumi and Ayumi tease them, and Yushin is overwhelmed by the attention. Nanami's friends start shooing the curious crowd away. Nanami defends Yushin, asking if there's an issue with her confessing to him. Her friends, Oto Fuke Hatsumi and Kamo Nayumi, formally introduce themselves. Yushin is flustered and apologizes for using their first names. Hatsumi and Ayumi find him hilarious and tell him not to worry. Nanami is blushing, and her friends can tell she's actually serious. They prompt her to tell Yushin whatever she was planning to say. Nanami asks him if he has any plans for lunch. Yushin is caught off guard. He was planning to just head to the cafeteria, but Nanami has a better idea. She's blushing intensely as she asks if he'd like to eat together. Nanami presents a large, wrapped bento box. She admits she made enough for 2 people. Yushin is stunned by the gesture, realizing she really is putting a lot of effort into this, dare or not. He happily accepts. They sit together on a bench, and Yushin is amazed by the beautiful spread inside the bento. He wonders if this is why she woke up so early. Nanami is thrilled by his reaction, her face lighting up as he thanks her. As they eat, other students watch them like they're a spectacle. Yushin feels the pressure, but Nanami seems completely focused on him. He realizes he's becoming more and more conscious of her as a girl, not just a classmate. Yushin praises her cooking, which makes Nanami incredibly happy. She admits she secretly made a little more than usual today. Yushin can practically feel the waves of jealousy from the other guys watching them. Yushin's stomach growls, and Nanami immediately gets worried, thinking she didn't pack enough. She offers him some of her carriage, and Yushin is momentarily mesmerized by her slim, delicate fingers. Nanami holds out a piece of chicken with her chopsticks, offering to feed him. Yushin is paralyzed with embarrassment, his face turning bright red. He knows there's no way he can refuse, even as the kill intent from the onlookers intensifies. Yushin takes the bite, and it's delicious. He's so flustered he can barely think. Nanami, meanwhile, is in her own world, blushing and wondering if they should go on a real date after school. Nanami suggests they go buy him another bento box after school, since he's still hungry. Yushin is overwhelmed by her concern. He realizes this really is turning into a proper after-school date. They end up at a mall, and the contrast between the popular girl and the loner boy is still drawing eyes. Yushin is anxious about the attention, but Nanami seems completely at ease as long as she's with him. Nanami notices Yushin looks a bit down and asks if he's okay. Yushin tries to hide his nervousness, and Nanami shyly wonders if he's upset about having to hold hands with someone like her. Yushin quickly denies it, assuring her he's happy. Nanami's face breaks into a relieved smile. They look at some items together, and Nanami wonders if they really look like a newlywed couple. The thought alone makes Yushin's heart skip a beat. They find a bento box that Nanami likes, and Yushin is once again struck by how genuine her excitement is. He's starting to lose track of the fact that this whole thing might be fake. He feels a warmth he hasn't felt in a long time. Nanami holds up the bento box she chose, looking for his approval. Yushin tells her it's the best one. Nanami is so happy she starts to head for the cashier, but Yushin stops her, insisting on paying for it himself. Yushin tries to take the box, but Nanami won't let go. She insists on paying since she's the one who will be using it to make his lunch. Yushin is caught in a loop of embarrassment and gratitude. They have a small back and forth about who should pay. Yushin doesn't want to look like he's just taking advantage of her, but Nanami is firm. She wants to do this for the one she is dating. She almost lets the word love slip. In the end, Nanami gets her way. She hands the bag to him with a beaming smile, telling him it feels like she's giving him a present. Yushin is left speechless, his face a constant shade of red. As they walk out, Nanami asks him what he wants in his bento tomorrow. Yushin suggests a hamburger, but then mentions he's not good with strong-smelling things like peppers. Nanami's eyes sparkle as she takes mental notes. Yushin tells her he'll eat anything she cooks, which sends Nanami into another blushing fit. She playfully teases him, then gives him a sweet, winking smile. Yushin feels like he's finally found the right answer. The day ends on a high note, with Nanami laughing brightly. Yushin thinks to himself that even if it's not cool, he's okay with this. He's actually having a good time. Nanami promises to call him tonight before they part ways. Back in the game world, Yushin is recounting the day's events to Baron and Canyon. He admits he wasn't able to bring up the punishment game because she was just so genuinely happy. Baron is impressed he actually held hands on the first day. Baron points out that Nanami is already acting like she's completely head over heels for him. He questions if she even cares about the punishment game anymore. Yushin is still a bit skeptical, but he can't deny how real it felt. Yushin has a brief flashback of Nanami looking slightly down earlier. He wonders if she would ever say something like, "I was forced to go out with you, so don't get carried away." He quickly dismisses the thought, knowing she's not like that. Canyon is still skeptical, suggesting Nanami might just be toying with him. She tells him he should just break up with her. Yushin is frustrated, defending Nanami and the effort she put into the bento. Baron tries to keep things balanced. Baron suggests Yushin should return the favor by giving her some sweets as a thank you for the meal. Yushin admits he hadn't even thought of that because he was so nervous. Baron already has the next objective in mind for him. Baron, in his knight armor, suggests Yushin ask Nanami out on a date this coming Saturday. Yushin is completely caught off guard by the suggestion, his face turning bright red at the mere thought. Yushin tries to process the idea. Baron explains that since they're in a relationship for a punishment game, they should at least try to be on equal footing. He advises Yushin to ask Nanami about her hobbies and what she enjoys so he can pick a movie she'd like. Back at home, Yushin is startled when his phone starts vibrating on his desk. It's a call from Nanami. He answers, feeling nervous as she apologizes for calling so late after they spent the whole day talking with her friends. Nanami tells him how much she enjoyed everything they did today. Her voice sounds so close in his ear that Yushin can't help but blush. He's so moved that he starts thinking about how he can properly thank her for the day and the bento. Yushin tries to ask her out for Saturday, but Nanami reveals she already promised to go to the movies with Hatsumi and the others that day. Yushin is immediately crushed, thinking his bad timing has ruined everything. Desperate to not let the moment pass, Yushin blurts out an invitation for Sunday instead. Nanami is surprised but happily agrees to a Sunday date. Yushin is relieved, while Nanami promises to put even more effort into the bento she's making for him. After hanging up, Nanami lies on her bed, staring at her phone screen with Yushin's contact information. She's buzzing with excitement, thinking about how amazing their first proper date on Sunday is going to be. She starts rolling around on her massive bed, squealing into her pillow. She's overwhelmed by how cute Yushin is, especially since he showed up early just to meet her. She tells herself she needs to calm down, but she's already all fluffy, thinking about tomorrow morning. Nanami looks at her reflection, touching her braided hair. She's genuinely touched that he noticed her new hairstyle right away and called her cute. She finds his shy demeanor absolutely adorable. She remembers feeding him earlier and suddenly realizes it was practically an indirect kiss. The thought makes her face explode in a bright red blush. She's so embarrassed, but also finds herself wanting to stay together with him like this. Her mind drifts to the possibility of a real kiss in the future, which only adds to her panic. She shakes her head, telling herself it's too soon since they've only been dating for 2 days. Suddenly, she realizes she still needs to prepare tomorrow's bento. Nanami heads to the kitchen and puts on an apron. Surrounded by fresh vegetables and ingredients, she's determined to make the best meal possible for Yushin. She's full of energy and ready to get to work. As she washes the rice, Nanami can't stop smiling. She thinks about how Yushin was unexpectedly proactive today, even though he's usually so quiet at school. She finds even his flustered moments incredibly charming. She's so happy that he was the one to invite her out for Sunday. She realizes she wants to know everything about him and spend as much time together as they possibly can. While she's busy at the stove, Nanami's imagination runs wild. She imagines Yushin eating her freshly cooked food at the dinner table. She dreams of them drinking tapioca together, or the day she might finally be invited to his house. Her fantasies continue, picturing a summer break trip to the sea where she'd wear a bikini and a traditional summer festival where they'd walk around in yukatas together. She envisions them celebrating every holiday, a fun Halloween in costumes, standing before a giant Christmas tree, and her giving him chocolates on Valentine's Day. There's so many things she wants to experience with him. Her expression softens as she looks at the calendar. A month feels far too short for everything she has planned. She's struck by a sudden wave of anxiety, worried that if Yushin ever finds out their relationship started as a punishment game, he'll hate her forever. She recalls Hatsumi and Ayumi, calling Yushin an easy target and suggesting she date a Mr. Simpleton. Nanami feels a pang of guilt, realizing she might be taking advantage of his kindness. Tears well up in her eyes as she chops vegetables. The fear of him discovering the truth and turning away from her is truly terrifying. She doesn't want to lose the precious bond they're starting to build. Nanami resolves that she doesn't want Yushin to ever feel depressed because of her. She decides she'll just have to keep changing and growing alongside him. She's determined to make him happy, starting with a delicious hamburger for his lunch. Another thought of a kiss crosses her mind, making her blush furiously again. She tells herself that a kiss is still a no-go and far too embarrassing for now, but she'll make sure to be ready for whenever that time finally comes. Fired up, Nanami pumps her fists in determination. She'll put all her effort into making him fall deeply in love with her. She hopes that if he truly loves her, he'll find a way to forgive her when the truth about the punishment game eventually comes out. She's putting her heart and soul into preparing tomorrow's bento, mixing ingredients with renewed vigor. Her mother peeks into the kitchen, telling her to tone it down since it's getting late, leaving a flustered Nanami to apologize for her late-night cooking spree. Flash back to the morning of their school meetup. Yushin arrives at the station a full 30 minutes early, his heart pounding with a mix of nerves and excitement. Nanami surprises him by popping up right behind him. She's changed her look again, rocking a cute side ponytail that she specifically chose for today. She laughs when he mentions he's early, admitting that she was so excited to see him that she couldn't wait either. The two of them realize they're both equally eager for this. Yushin compliments her new hairstyle, which sends a wave of red across Nanami's face. Emboldened, she offers him her hand to hold and mentions she's already prepared a bento for him. They walk toward the school hand in hand, both of them a bit flustered by the intimacy. For Yushin, this still feels like a dream he hasn't woken up from yet. At school, the atmosphere is loud and energetic. In the gym, Kamui-senpai is practicing basketball, surrounded by a crowd of cheering girls who treat him like a celebrity. The stark contrast between the popular athletes and someone like Yushin is palpable. He watches the scene for a moment before heading off to find Nanami. He meets up with her at the lockers and apologizes for calling her out of the blue the night before. He was worried he was being too forward or bothering her. Nanami quickly sets him straight, her face lighting up as she tells him his call actually made her incredibly happy. It turns out his nerves were for nothing. She admits that she's still not entirely used to boys, and they can still be a bit scary, which catches Yushin off guard. He'd assumed a girl like her would have plenty of experience. Yushin starts overthinking, wondering how he should react to her confession. He's trying to be supportive without making things awkward between them. He mentions he thought someone as cute as her would be used to attention from guys. Nanami blushes furiously, her eyes wide as she processes his casual compliment. Yushin worries if she's had some bad experiences with guys in the past that made her so guarded. He really wants to understand where she's coming from. Nanami tries to play it down, saying it's not a big deal. She's always just had a hard time connecting with them, but she can't even remember why. She explains that most guys in middle school were pretty nasty and superficial, which led her to distance herself from them altogether. It's a defense mechanism she built up over years. With a playful wink, she reminds him that even though it's only been a few days, she's his girlfriend now. Yushin's heart practically thumps out of his chest at her sudden boldness. As they talk, the movement of her shirt draws his eyes for just a split second. It's an instinctive reaction from a teenage boy, but he knows he's treading dangerous ground. Nanami catches him looking immediately. She gives him a sharp, narrowing glare and calls him a pervert, though there's more teasing than actual anger in her voice. Yushin goes into a total panic, waving his hands and apologizing frantically. He's terrified he's just ruined the good mood they had going. She leans in close, her expression softening as she whispers that it's okay because it's him. She's willing to forgive him this time, which only makes him more flustered. Yushin is left reeling from her playfulness, his brain practically short-circuiting. He really can't keep up with how quickly she shifts from being shy to being a tease. Lunchtime finally arrives, and they head to the rooftop to spend their break together. Nanami proudly presents her homemade bento, complete with extra hamburger steaks, just the way he likes them. Nanami is in full girlfriend mode, offering Yushin a bite of her homemade lunch with a big say, ah. She's clearly enjoying their time together on the bench. The sweet moment is shattered when a tall, intimidating guy looms over them. He looks down at Yushin with pure contempt, demanding to know who this random nobody is sitting next to Nanami. Nanami isn't having it. She stands her ground, telling the guy he's being way too stubborn and needs to back off. The tension between them is thick enough to cut with a knife. This is Shibetsu Shumo, the school's star basketball player and a total like men. Apparently, he's got a history of getting rejected by Nanami, but he clearly hasn't taken a hint yet. Yushin feels the heat, but he manages to introduce himself properly. He makes it official. He's Nanami's boyfriend. Shibetsu just stares him down, looking like he wants to delete him from existence. With everyone in the courtyard staring, things are getting awkward. Yushin suggests they move the conversation to the cafeteria to at least get a little privacy from all the prying eyes. They settle into a booth, but the mood is anything but casual. Shibetsu is fixated on the bento Nanami made, looking absolutely miserable that he's not the one eating her cooking. Nanami is just happy that Yushin is enjoying the food she worked so hard on. Meanwhile, Shibetsu is practically vibrating with jealousy in his seat, wishing he could swap places. Shibetsu finally snaps and throws down a challenge. He wants to duel Yushin, with the winner getting Nanami. It's as aggressive and tone-deaf as you'd expect from a guy like him. Yushin isn't interested in some childish duel, which only makes Shibetsu more desperate. He starts taunting Yushin, calling him a coward for refusing to fight for his girl. Nanami shuts him down hard, telling him to stop using her first name so familiarly. She's clearly done with his alpha male routine and doesn't hide her annoyance. She clings to Yushin's arm, proudly declaring him her boyfriend. Shibetsu is stunned. He can't wrap his head around why the most popular girl in school would choose a plain guy over him. Yushin finds his voice and calls Shibetsu out. He says that wagering a person in a duel is disgusting, and that Nanami's feelings are the only thing that actually matters here. He tells Shibetsu there's no reason to even have a duel since Nanami has already made her choice. He stands up, ready to walk away and leave this whole mess behind. Shibetsu is desperate now, shouting about how much better looking he is. But as they walk away, Nanami doesn't even look back, leaving him standing there like a fool. Nanami delivers the final blow, telling him he's pathetic for staring at her chest while trying to propose. She's seen right through his shallow behavior and isn't holding back. She insists that a real man like Yushin would never be so disrespectful. Yushin just sweats quietly, feeling a bit guilty because he totally did peek earlier, even if she forgave him for it. Nanami pokes her tongue out at the rejected athlete, clearly enjoying her victory. Yushin thanks her for standing up for him, though he's still a bit dazed by the whole confrontation. Shibetsu keeps pestering them, but Yushin warns him that he's only making Nanami hate him more. The guy is being incredibly persistent, but he's just digging his own grave at this point. In a hilarious turn of events, Shibetsu drops all his pride and starts begging. He's literally crying, asking Yushin to just fight him because his logic is too hard to handle. Yushin realizes this guy isn't going to go away until he gets his duel. He sighs and asks what kind of match he wants. Shibetsu immediately suggests a 3-point basketball contest. Yushin admits he knows absolutely nothing about basketball, but he agrees to the challenge. Shibetsu is already envisioning a crushing victory, confident he'll win Nanami back. Nanami is worried, knowing Yushin is a complete beginner. But Yushin tells her it's fine and that he'll find a way to make it work somehow. He's got a quiet determination about him. The look of concern on Nanami's face melts away when she sees how serious he is. She tells him she believes in him, giving him all the motivation he needs to go through with this. Yushin manages to negotiate a handicap since he's a total rookie. Shibetsu is so overconfident that he's willing to agree to almost anything to get the game started. Word of the duel spreads like wildfire, and soon half the school is crammed into the gym. Yushin has borrowed a jersey from his buddy Kamui Senpai, and he's feeling the pressure of the crowd. Shibetsu is in his element, soaking up the attention. Yushin, on the other hand, is just trying to stay calm while Nanami's friends watch the spectacle with a mix of amusement and skepticism. Nanami pouts as she notices other girls starting to check out Yushin in his sports gear. It seems her gloomy boyfriend might have a hidden side that's actually quite popular. The friends can't help but laugh at the absurdity of the whole situation. They're watching from the sidelines as Yushin prepares to take on the school's star athlete in a sport he's never played. To his credit, Shibetsu actually takes a moment to show Yushin the proper shooting form. He's a professional at heart, even if he's being a total idiot about the stakes of the match. The rules are set. Yushin only needs to score once to win, while Shibetsu has to hit 8 three-pointers. It sounds like a massive advantage, but for a beginner, even one shot is a tall order. There's one more rule that Shibetsu somehow agreed to. Nanami gets to decide the winner regardless of the final score. Her friends realize the match was over before it even began. The friends can't believe how much of a big idiot Shibetsu is for agreeing to those terms. They're already calling it for Yushin while the guys on the court get ready to start. The match begins, and the gym goes silent as Yushin steps up to the line. He looks small compared to the hoop, but he's got the support of the most important girl in the room. Yushin takes a deep breath, wanting to look cool for Nanami just this once. He puts everything he's got into the throw, watching as the ball arcs through the air. The ball goes straight through the net with a perfect swish. The entire gym erupts in cheers. Yushin actually managed to score on his very first attempt. Nanami is ecstatic, jumping up and down as she screams, "Love you," at the top of her lungs. Her public confession is even more shocking than the basket Yushin just made. Yushin is frozen in place, his face turning bright red as her words sink in. The scoreboard shows his single point, which technically fulfills the handicap for his win. Shibetsu doesn't give up and actually manages to hit all 8 of his shots, bringing the score to a draw. He looks exhausted, but satisfied with his performance. But the points don't matter. Nanami immediately hugs Yushin and declares him the winner. The contest was never about basketball skills, and everyone knows it. Shibetsu is left sobbing on the gym floor, completely broken by his defeat. He finally understands that no amount of athleticism can win over someone who's already in love with someone else. Later that night, Yushin recounts the whole crazy day to his online mentor, Baron. It's been an exhausting day, but standing up for Nanami has only brought them closer together. In the game world, Canyon is being her usual cynical self. She warns Yushin that gals like Nanami are just toying with guys like him, looking for a laugh behind their backs. Yushin's avatar stands firm, defending his girlfriend. He doesn't believe Nanami is a bad person, even if her friends seem to be just along for the ride. He's choosing to trust his own feelings over Canyon's warnings. Yushin realizes he needs to step up his game to show Nanami how much he really cares. He doesn't want to just be another guy she's toying with. He wants to be someone worthy of her affection. He decides to log out for the night, needing to prepare for school the next day. Just as he shuts everything down, his phone buzzes with a new message from Nanami. Speak of the devil. Yushin stares at the screen, his heart nearly stopping. Nanami has sent a bold message, asking if a kiss on the cheek would be a good enough reward for today. He's completely flustered by her forwardness. Meanwhile, Nanami is soaking in the bath, her mind racing. She sent that message in a burst of excitement, and now she's wondering if she went too far. She really wanted to see how Yushin would react to her boldness. As the warm water splashes over her, Nanami can't stop thinking about how much better Yushin is compared to guys like Shibetsu. He's gentler, kinder, and actually seems to care about her as a person. She's still annoyed that Shibetsu interrupted their private time earlier today. In her mind, she's already decided that Yushin is the only one she wants to be with, no matter what anyone else thinks. Thinking back to his cool behavior during the duel, Nanami feels like she's boiling over with excitement. She can't believe how smoothly he handled everything, and her heart won't stop pounding at the memory. A wild daydream of them getting intimate flashes through her mind, making her face turn bright red. She's getting way ahead of herself, but she can't help it. She's completely head over heels for him. The bathroom door swings open as her sister Sayao walks in, complaining that she's been monopolizing the bath for too long. Nanami snaps out of her daze, embarrassed to be caught grinning like a fool in the tub. The next day at school, the atmosphere is heavy with anticipation. They're finally together again, but the peace is broken when a familiar figure approaches them in the hallway. It's Shibetsu, looking surprisingly subdued. Nanami immediately puts her guard up, telling him to just leave them alone. She's not interested in another one of his dramatic outbursts or challenges. She just wants to be with Yushin. Surprisingly, Shibetsu says he's not there for Nanami this time. He specifically wants to talk to Mitsumai-kun. Yushin is confused, wondering what the basketball star could possibly want with him now. Shibetsu drops a bombshell. He wants the three of them to be friends. It's a complete 180 from his behavior yesterday, and both Yushin and Nanami are left speechless by his sudden change of heart. He explains that after seeing Yushin's performance yesterday, he's gained a lot of respect for him. He thinks Yushin is worthy of Nanami and wants to move past their rivalry. He's being surprisingly sincere about it. Shibetsu is acting so innocently, it's almost hard to stay mad at him. Nanami whispers to Yushin that the guy is actually a total airhead who only knows how to play basketball, which explains why he's so socially awkward. Nanami is still a bit weirded out by how much Shibetsu seems to be appealing to her maternal instincts with his puppy dog attitude. She reminds him that he was acting pretty obscene just yesterday. Shibetsu is clearly embarrassed by his past behavior and tries to pivot back to his request for friendship. He's begging now, showing a completely different side than the arrogant athlete from before. Yushin agrees to be friends, but on one condition: he will never hand over Nanami. He stands his ground, making it clear that she's not a prize to be won or traded. Nanami is visibly moved by his firm words. Shibetsu accepts the terms, finally admitting that the two of them really do make a great couple. He seems genuinely happy to have found a way to stay in their circle without all the hostility. He tries to push his luck by inviting Yushin to join the basketball club, but Yushin politely declines. He's more interested in spending every spare moment he has with Nanami than practicing free throws. Nanami is overjoyed to hear him prioritize her over everything else. She's blushing hard, feeling like the luckiest girl in school for having such a dedicated boyfriend. She can't hide her happiness. With Shibetsu finally gone, they're alone again. Nanami apologizes for all the trouble her popularity has caused, but she's clearly glad that Yushin didn't back down from the challenge. Yushin gets bold again, telling her that if anyone tries to snatch her away, he'll be there to stop them. It's a total cool guy line, and he's blushing almost as hard as she is for saying it. Nanami is melting from all the sweet things he's saying. She tells him how happy it makes her to hear him speak so protectively of her, her heart swelling with pure affection for him. They start talking about their date coming up soon. Since they won't see each other for a day, Nanami promises to send him tons of messages. She's clearly looking forward to it as much as he is. She clings to his arm, telling him how warm he feels. They're lost in their own little world, and even the gloomy Yushin is starting to feel all warm and fuzzy from her constant affection. Back in the game world, Canyon's dark outlook is still as deep as ever. She can't understand why Yushin is so optimistic about a gal like Nanami, convinced that she's going to crush his heart in the end. Baron tries to cheer him up, telling him not to worry about the game and just enjoy the experience. He thinks Yushin's efforts to be a good boyfriend will pay off in the long run. Yushin hits a snag when he realizes he has no idea what to wear for their big date. He's lived a gloomy life for so long that his entire wardrobe consists of nothing but black clothes. He's panicking a bit. He decides to call Kamui Senpai, the guy who lent him the jersey for the duel, hoping for some fashion advice. He sent a photo of his best outfit, praying it's acceptable for a date. The outfit is exactly what you'd expect, all black from head to toe. Yushin waits nervously for the senpai's verdict, wondering if he looks cool or just like he's going to a funeral. Kamui's reaction is priceless. He screams through the phone, asking if Yushin is some kind of serial killer or a ninja. The all-black look is a total disaster in his eyes, and he tells him to go shopping immediately. Faced with a fashion emergency, Yushin has no choice but to head to the mall. He feels like he's betrayed the expectations of his online friends by being so clueless about something as simple as clothes. On the train, Yushin is incredibly self-conscious. He feels like everyone is staring at his plain, black outfit, and he's starting to realize just how much he's neglected his appearance over the years. He arrives at Lyon, a trendy shopping center, but he feels completely out of place. He's convinced he's the most pathetic person there, surrounded by stylish people who actually know how to dress. He wanders through the halls, feeling the weight of people's gazes. He's starting to realize that being a gloomy guy has its downsides when you're trying to impress a popular gal like Nanami. The prices for the refreshing outfits Kamui suggested are way higher than he expected. He realizes he's going to have to find a part-time job soon if he wants to keep up with this new lifestyle. His mind wanders to Nanami, wondering if she has a part-time job too. He daydreams about her working in various outfits, a maid, a waitress, or a bunny girl, and immediately realizes he'd never be able to focus if she did. He finally picks out something that isn't all black and sends a photo to Kamui for approval. It's a huge step out of his comfort zone, but he's willing to do anything to look good for tomorrow. Meanwhile, Nanami is at home, trying on different outfits for their zoo date. She's determined to look her best for her cool boyfriend, unaware of the fashion crisis he's currently suffering through. Both of them are ready for their big day. While wandering through the mall, Yushin spots some familiar faces in the crowd. He's surprised to see Odo Fukusan and even Kamui Senpai nearby, though they were supposed to be at the movies. Something feels off about the scene unfolding in front of him. He watches as a group of flashy guys corners two of Nanami's gal friends. The guys are being incredibly pushy, ignoring the girls' obvious discomfort and insisting that their boyfriends will never find out about them having a little fun together. Yushin notices a third girl standing behind the two gals. She's dressed in a much more modest, mature outfit and is wearing glasses with her hair pulled back. She looks completely different from her flashy companions and seems even more distressed by the situation. Yushin is genuinely confused. He recognizes the two gals as Nanami's friends, but he doesn't immediately place the third girl in the glasses. He scans the area, wondering if Nanami has already left her friends behind to head home. Despite his own fears, Yushin realizes he can't just abandon them. If these are Nanami's friends, he has a responsibility to help, even if he has no idea how a gloomy guy like him can stand up to a group of confident thugs. He knows he'd never be able to face Nanami again if he ran away now. Trembling but determined, Yushin steps between the girls and their harassers. The guys immediately mock him, calling him a gloomy cockroach and telling him to buzz off. Yushin takes the insults, his eyes fixed on the task at hand, while the girl with glasses watches his brave intervention with wide, surprised eyes. Yushin spots a girl in glasses being cornered by a group of guys at the mall. She looks completely terrified, her hands clasped together as she tries to back away. He doesn't hesitate for a second, stepping right between them and declaring that he's her boyfriend. The girl is stunned, her eyes wide behind her lenses as this random guy suddenly becomes her shield. The harassers just laugh it off, mocking Yushin for being a plain-looking loser. They think it's a joke that a gloomy roach like him would be dating anyone, let alone a girl who looks so prim and proper. One of the thugs loses his patience and grabs Yushin by the collar, pulling him close. He sneers, threatening to mess him up and take his girlfriend for himself if he doesn't beat it. Suddenly, a heavy hand drops onto the thug's shoulder. A security guard has arrived, looming over the group with a stern look that immediately kills the tough guy act. Yushin plays it up perfectly, pointing at the thug and telling the guard he's being assaulted. The sudden shift in power has the harasser sweating buckets as he realizes he's been caught red-handed. The other two guys immediately start backpedaling, trying to claim they weren't involved and that it was all their friend's idea. They're falling over themselves to get away before things get legal. The thugs scramble away as fast as they can, leaving the scene in a hurry. Yushin lets out a sigh of relief, though he's still a bit shaken from the confrontation. The guard watches them go, making sure the area is clear. Yushin stands with the girl, his hands still resting on the strap of his bag as the adrenaline starts to fade. Two other girls run over to thank Yushin for his help. They're clearly relieved their friend is safe, and they can't believe he was brave enough to stand up to those guys all by himself. One of the friends, a girl with long dark hair, mentions that she usually doesn't worry because her boyfriend, who happens to be a famous martial artist, trained her, but this was still a close call. The black-haired girl gets all flustered when they mention her boyfriend is actually her stepbrother. Yushin is just caught in the middle of their chaotic girl talk, completely out of his element. Yushin stares at the girl in glasses, realizing there's something incredibly familiar about those eyes. It clicks in an instant. This honor student is actually Nanami in a heavy disguise. Nanami is absolutely thrilled that he recognized her even with the wig and glasses. She twirls her skirt, showing off her uncharacteristically modest outfit with a huge, genuine smile. She admits she was worried he'd be disappointed to see her dressed so plainly, but Yushin just laughs it off. He jokes that compared to her, he's the one who looks like a gloomy roach in his regular clothes. His self-deprecating humor actually works, and Nanami finds the comparison adorable. Her friends watch the two of them interact, clearly seeing the spark between them. The friends can't help but tease them, saying it must be the power of love that let him see through her disguise instantly. Nanami is blushing hard, barely able to hide her excitement. Yushin encourages the girls to get back to their shopping, wanting Nanami to enjoy her time with her friends. He waves them off, still trying to process the fact that his gal girlfriend has such a different side to her. He feels a bit embarrassed about his own basic outfit, especially standing next to her. He came to the mall to buy new clothes for their actual date, but now he's feeling even more self-conscious. Before they part ways, Nanami leans in and asks a killer question. Which version of her does he want to see on their date tomorrow? She leaves him blushing and speechless as she walks away with her friends. It's time for their quiet rendezvous. Yushin waits outside as Nanami arrives for their big date. Nanami shows up in her intelligent gal look, complete with glasses and a more conservative outfit. She asks if it looks good on her, and Yushin is struggling to find the words. He manages to get out a cute, which is exactly what she wanted to hear. Nanami is thrilled her good girl disguise is doing the trick. They head to the Leon Theater to catch a movie. Nanami mentions there are over 20 entries in this superhero series, and Yushin wonders if he can even keep up. She's already got it figured out. If he gets hooked, they can just stream all the previous movies together later. Nanami gets close, playfully asking if he actually prefers watching movies alone. Yushin quickly denies it, trying his best to stay composed. She realizes out loud that finishing 20 movies would take them over a month. To her, that sounds like a long time. Yushin takes her hand and promises they'll still be together by the time they finish. It's a bold move that catches her off guard. Nanami teases him for being so smooth, despite his claims of never having a girlfriend. She wonders if he's secretly a pro. He insists on paying for the whole date to thank her for all the home-cooked bentos. He's determined to step up and get his best shot today. The lights dim and the movie starts. As the screen glows, Yushin catches a glimpse of Nanami and thinks she's the most beautiful person he's ever seen. They settle in as the hero on screen makes a dramatic promise to return. It's the perfect atmosphere for a movie date. Yushin is completely distracted. He can't focus on the plot when he's sitting this close to her in the dark. Their hands accidentally touch on the armrest. Yushin freezes, his heart racing, while Nanami tries to hide her own embarrassment. After the credits roll, they walk out discussing the emotional ending. Nanami was on the verge of tears, while Yushin is just glad the hero survived. Nanami leans in with a smirk, asking if he was actually watching the movie or just staring at her the whole time. Yushin's internal panic hits a new high. It's getting late, and the theater is closing. Yushin mentions his parents are away, so he'll probably just order delivery for dinner. Nanami jumps at the chance and offers to come over to his place to cook for him. Yushin is stunned by the sudden turn of events. Cut to Yushin's kitchen, where they're making gyoza together. It's a surreal moment for him, seeing his crushed domestic in his own home. Nanami beams, saying that cooking together makes them feel like a married couple. Yushin tries to stay focused on the dumplings to hide his blushing face. He notices she's a natural at this. He compares his messy attempts to her perfect work, realizing just how skilled she is. They start frying them up, the sizzle filling the room. Sitting across from each other like this makes the house feel much more like a home. They sit down to eat, and the food is incredible. Yushin is so happy with the taste and the company that he's nearly moved to tears. After dinner, Nanami starts cleaning up. Seeing her taking care of things makes Yushin realize how much he appreciates her being there. She serves him more rice, making sure he eats his fill. It's pure domestic bliss for the both of them. It's finally time to head home. Yushin insists on walking her back since it's late, and he wants to make sure she stays safe. They walk through the neighborhood carrying the leftovers. Nanami wonders if she should tell her mom they were together at his place. She blushes, admitting that she really loved the time they spent together tonight. Yushin agrees, feeling the same way. Suddenly, a massive, intimidating man looms over them at her door. Yushin immediately steps in front of Nanami to shield her. It's Nanami's dad, Barato Janikura. He looks like a powerhouse, and he wants to know exactly who this boy is. Inside, Yushin meets Nanami's mom, Tomoko, and her little sister, Saya. They seem far more welcoming than the father. Tomoko teases Nanami about putting on makeup to visit a friend's house, clearly suspecting something more is going on. Janikura leads them into the living room. The tension is palpable as the giant of a man waits for an explanation. Yushin bows deeply, taking all the blame for bringing Nanami home late and begging her father not to be too hard on her. Summoning every ounce of courage, Yushin introduces himself properly and declares that he is Nanami's boyfriend. Janikura stares him down before extending a massive hand. He welcomes Yushin to the family with a bone-crushing handshake. In the kitchen, Tomoko looks on with a smile, relieved the initial confrontation didn't end in disaster. Janikura sits down with a serious expression. The interrogation isn't over just because they shook hands. He admits he's a bit angry, and Yushin braces for the worst, wondering if he's about to be kicked out. It turns out he's only mad because they didn't tell him sooner. He flashes a smile, revealing he's actually quite happy about the news. The atmosphere shifts as the parents reveal they know the truth. They bring up a lie that started this whole thing. A flashback reveals the original punishment game bet. The secret is out. The parents know their relationship was supposed to be a fake confession. Janikura is laying down the law. No overnight stays at a boy's house. Meanwhile, Tomoko is just happy for her daughter, noticing how much care she puts in her bentos lately. Yushin is literally shaking from the killing intent, radiating off her father. Nanami just laughs it off, apologizing for her dad being so inappropriate. Nanami is absolutely flustered, yelling at her dad for always saying such weird and embarrassing things. Janikura looks genuinely confused, wondering what he did to deserve all that shouting. The living room vibe is a perfect mix of awkward and hilarious. She keeps going, reminding him of all his past comments that were totally uncalled for. Yushin just stands there, watching the family dynamic play out. Yushin is having a minor internal crisis, thinking there's absolutely no way he can win against a guy who looks like a professional wrestler. Nanami reflects on the past week and all the memories they've already made, from the infirmary to their first movie date. Yushin is moved by her words. He steps up and declares he'll take on any challenge because he won't let anything separate them. Nanami throws her arms around him in a huge hug, much to her mother's jealous amusement. She's clearly all in on this relationship. Janikura is still playing dumb, asking if he really said all that weird stuff. His wife just gives him a look that says, "You absolutely did." Tomoko is getting a kick out of her husband's embarrassment. Janikura is sweating under the pressure of his daughter's accusations. Nanami brings up a specific memory from middle school when he was drinking and said something particularly ridiculous about her future boyfriends. We see a flashback of Janikura drinking, telling Nanami that any boy who wants to date her has to beat him in a fight first. Back in the present, Janikura tries to justify himself, flexing his muscles and saying he only trained this hard to keep his family safe. Nanami starts blushing, remembering that Yushin's abs were actually pretty defined when she took care of him in the infirmary. Janikura's protective instincts flare up instantly. His face goes dark as he asks how the hell Yushin has already seen her naked. Tomoko winks at Yushin, telling him he better keep training to stay in shape. Janikura just grumbles about not trusting small eyes. He pulls out a photo album labeled Memories to explain the real reason why he became so obsessed with training. He shows a photo of a young, crying Nanami. He explains that she was bullied by boys back in elementary school. The bullying was so bad, she couldn't handle being around boys for years. Janikura swore he'd become strong enough to protect her from anyone. Yushin is deeply moved by the story. He looks at Nanami and finally understands the weight of her bringing a boyfriend home. He stands up and makes a solemn vow right then and there. From now on, he will be the one to protect her. Yushin bows low, formally asking the parents for their blessing. He's completely serious about his commitment to her. Janikura is impressed by his resolve and officially welcomes him as a future son-in-law. The mom is just happy it all worked out so well. Nanami is stunned, her face turning bright red from his passionate declaration. She's completely lost for words. Since it's getting late, Janikura offers to drive Yushin home. Nanami is still in a daze as they head out. Yushin thanks her father for everything he shared tonight. He's grateful for the trust they've placed in him. They share a firm handshake before Yushin leaves. He's determined to be the honest man she deserves from here on out. The next day at school, Yushin is summoned to the staff room. He has no idea why he's being called in by the teacher. The teacher asks point-blank if he's being bullied by Nanami. Apparently, rumors are flying about their unusual relationship. Yushin quickly shuts that down. He explains how Nanami carried him to the infirmary when he was hurt. She's the one caring for him. He raises his voice, declaring that she's his gentle and beautiful girlfriend and he won't let anyone spread lies about her. He heads back toward classroom 2-2, thinking he shouldn't have made Nanami wait for him so long. Outside the room, he hears a group of gals gossiping about Nanami, wondering why she'd ever date an introvert like him. They're being pretty harsh, listing off everything he isn't. Not tall, not athletic, and not even that good-looking. Yushin hears every word. He decides to step in, but he's hesitant. He knows he shouldn't just stand there while they mock his relationship. Inside, Nanami is calmly listening to her friends. One of them comments on how much prettier she's looked lately. Nanami winks and tells them straight up that Yushin is actually pretty jacked under his school clothes. She laughs and tells them that once you really see him, you wouldn't want any other man. Her friends are completely stunned. Yushin finally walks in, apologizing for being late. Nanami welcomes him back with a huge smile, totally ignoring her shocked friends. They leave school together, waving goodbye to everyone as they head home after a long day. As they walk, Yushin asks why she was praising him so much. Nanami just says her gentle boyfriend is the only one who needs to know the truth. Nanami is completely flustered, hiding her face while telling Yushin he's being way too smooth. Her heart is racing from his unexpected directness. She tries to play it cool, saying she's just mimicking her mom, but Yushin is surprised to hear Tomoko-san is like this too. The idea of her mother being so proactive is news to him. Yushin gives her a warm, genuine smile, thanking her again for defending him earlier. He truly appreciates how she stood up for him. His sincerity is almost too much for Nanami to handle. She's blushing furiously and quickly suggests they go get some ice cream to distract herself from a racing heart. As they walk, Yushin reflects on how much more proactive Nanami has become lately, especially with small gestures like holding hands. He's amazed at how far they've come. He also thinks about the handmade desserts she's been bringing him for lunch. He's determined to find a way to repay her kindness on their next proper date. Back at school, Yushin discusses his relationship with a friend. He's still trying to process everything that's been happening with Nanami. His friend points out that it seems like Nanami is the one making all the moves and suggests that Yushin needs to shoot back with a bold move of his own. The mere thought of initiating a kiss sends Yushin into a blushing panic. He thinks to himself that such a thing is absolutely impossible in his wildest dreams. In class 2-2, Nanami is also a distracted mess. Her friends are teasing her while she stares off into space, clearly thinking about her time with Yushin. After class, Nanami and her friends are at the lockers. There's a palpable sense of excitement and curiosity among the group about her blossoming relationship. Nanami catches up with Yushin and asks if he'll go shopping with her on their way home. She mentions her mom asked her to pick up a few things. Yushin is happy to oblige, especially when Nanami looks at him with such a cute, pleading expression. He finds it impossible to say no to her. Nanami excitedly suggests they get 2 different flavors of bubble tea so they can share. Yushin realizes with a blush that this would mean an indirect kiss. They arrive at a trendy bubble tea shop at the mall. Yushin is surprised by the long line and the overall popularity of the place. Nanami is thrilled to be the one to introduce him to his very first bubble tea. She finds his introvert taking on bubble tea moment adorable. Standing in a long line together, Yushin realizes that even something he normally wouldn't care for becomes incredibly enjoyable when he's with her. Nanami finally gets her drink, and she looks so happy and cute that Yushin can't help but be mesmerized. She notices his orange tea has matching pearls. Yushin asks if he can take a picture of her with her drink. Nanami happily poses, thinking it's just a quick snapshot from memories. When she sees the photo, she's embarrassed by how much she stands out. Yushin insists she looks beautiful and that the orange drink really complements her appearance. Yushin admits he didn't just want a photo of the tea. He really wanted a photo of her because she's so stunning. Nanami is completely caught off guard by his praise. He then insists they take a photo together. Nanami is hesitant at first, but she eventually gives in, feeling nervous about the close proximity. As they pose for the selfie, Yushin remembers his friend's advice about shooting back. He decides to take a bold leap of faith. Just as the photo is taken, Yushin leans in and plants a firm kiss on Nanami's cheek. She's frozen in absolute shock as the shutter clicks. Nanami is left in a daze, her hand on her cheek where he kissed her. Yushin is also blushing furiously, realizing what he just did. Their intense romantic moment is suddenly shattered when a man's voice calls out Yushin's name. He looks up and turns pale. Right there in the middle of the mall are Yushin's parents, Mitsumai Akira and Mitsumai Shinobu. They're just as shocked as he is. Akira explains with a smile that they just finished work at the same time and were having a shopping date, totally unaware they'd run into their son. Shinobu, looking very serious, adjusts her glasses and asks Yushin exactly why he was kissing that young lady on the cheek. She wants answers immediately. Nanami quickly jumps in, stuttering as she introduces herself as Barato Nanami, Yushin's girlfriend, and insists he wasn't forcing himself on her. The revelation that Yushin has a girlfriend, especially one as pretty as Nanami, is a massive shock to his parents. Shinobu looks ready to interrogate them. Shinobu says she wants to hear more about this, but Akira suggests they calm down and move to the food court to talk properly. Walking toward the food court, Akira apologizes for their sudden appearance, though he's clearly happy to see his son has a girlfriend. Nanami is panicking internally, worried that she's making a bad first impression because she's not wearing a proper outfit to meet his parents. Yushin gently reassures her, holding her hand and saying his parents will surely understand how wonderful she is, regardless of her clothes. Nanami is touched by his support and thanks him. She starts to feel a little more confident about facing his mom and dad. The 4 of them sit down at a table in the food court with some cake and tea. The tension is high but manageable. Mitsumai Akira and Mitsumai Shinobu formally introduce themselves to Nanami, trying to bridge the gap and get to know her better. Suddenly, both parents burst into tears of pure joy, overwhelmed that their introverted son has managed to find such a beautiful and kind girlfriend. Yushin is mortified as his parents emotionalize over the miracle they're witnessing. They even bow their heads, asking Nanami to take care of him. Nanami blushes and tells them that Yushin is actually the wonderful one, especially since he's always so kind, and praises the bentos she makes for him. Shinobu gives Nanami an incredibly intense, analyzing stare. Yushin is terrified that she might be starting to suspect something about the origin of their relationship. Shinobu, adjusting her glasses with a sharp look, confronts Yushin about deceiving them. It seems they had been giving him money for lunch, but he had been using it for dates instead. Yushin passionately defends himself, declaring that he swore never to make Nanami sad and that he would never betray her. Nanami is moved by his heartfelt declaration. Shinobu, seeing his determination, tells him that since he likes Nanami so much, he should be able to name a few things he likes about her. She even brags that she can name a dozen things she likes about Akira. Yushin is ready to list everything he loves about her, but his parents realize they're getting a bit too heated for a public food court. They decide it's time to head home. At the checkout, Akira mentions that both he and Shinobu are going on an extended business trip starting tomorrow, meaning Yushin will be home alone for about a month. Akira suggests that Yushin use this time to improve his cooking skills, as eating bread and cup noodles every day would get old fast. Yushin realizes it's a good opportunity. Nanami, having overheard the conversation, asks if the parents will really be away starting tomorrow. She seems to have a bold idea forming in her mind. Blushing furiously and clutching her chest, Nanami asks if she could come over to Yushin's house and cook him dinner while his parents are away, or if that would be too much to ask. Tomoko, Nanami's mom, immediately shuts the idea down, saying it's a big no-no for two teenagers to spend every evening together alone. Nanami is disappointed. The parents discuss the appropriateness of the situation, while Nanami tries to argue that they handled themselves perfectly well the last time she was over. Shinobu catches onto Nanami's mention of last time and asks for clarification, causing both teens to freeze in a momentary panic. Despite the awkwardness, Nanami is determined to convince her parents. She believes she can handle the situation and wants to show how much she cares for Yushin. Yushin is internally panicking, thinking there's no way he could keep himself in check if they spent every single evening together alone in his house. The parents continue their discussion, with Shinobu expressing concern about leaving Yushin alone while they're away for a whole month. They consider the possibility of a compromise. Nanami declares with absolute sincerity that she really wants to cook for him. Her honest feelings shine through, leaving everyone momentarily speechless. She even promises to learn more so she can be a better cook for both of them. Yushin is touched and agrees to let her help him improve his own skills. Yushin's mother pulls him into a tight, emotional hug, lamenting how much he's grown since getting a girlfriend. Yushin is incredibly embarrassed by the public display of affection. Nanami is absolutely beaming, her eyes sparkling with joy at the prospect of taking care of Yushin. She's completely in her own happy world. The parents reach a decision. Yushin can come over to Nanami's house for dinner while his parents are away, and in exchange, he'll help her with the cooking. As they discuss the details, Janikura refers to the two as fiancés in training for their life as newlyweds, which sends both Yushin and Nanami into another round of blushing. Janikura gives a stern but heartfelt speech about protecting Nanami, while Tomoko looks on with a smile. The teenagers are overwhelmed by the sudden talk of marriage and family. As the adults continue their conversation, Nanami grabs Yushin's arm and says they're going to her room while they wait. Yushin is stunned that her room is suddenly an option. Yushin is standing outside Nanami's room, staring at a nameplate she made in elementary school. Her mom thought it was too cute to throw away, but for Yushin, it's just the gateway to a whole new level of awkwardness. He finally steps inside, and the first thing he notices is that her room is way bigger than his. Plus, it smells incredible, like a mix of perfume and something sweet he can't quite place. Nanami invites him to sit on the bed, acting totally casual about it. Yushin, on the other hand, looks like he's about to have a heart attack just standing there. Before he can even get comfortable, she suddenly hops onto his lap for a lap pillow. His brain completely short-circuits as she looks up at him with those big eyes. She starts poking his legs, commenting on how firm his thighs are. Yushin is practically vibrating with tension, trying his best not to look down. Nanami tells him that from now on, he won't have to be alone anymore. He tries to play it cool, saying he's used to his solo gaming sessions, but her words definitely hit home. They start talking about the mobile games he plays, and Nanami is genuinely interested. She even asks if she can join his team and play alongside him. She's so excited about meeting his online friends that Yushin can't help but smile. It's a side of her he's still getting used to, but he's not complaining. As she shifts around on his lap, Yushin realizes her skirt is dangerously short from this angle. He's doing everything in his power to keep his eyes on the ceiling. She catches him looking flustered and immediately starts teasing him. He's screaming, "Pervert!" at himself internally while her face turns a deep shade of red. Nanami brings up the kiss on the cheek from earlier today. She admits she wasn't mad at all. In fact, she was actually overjoyed that he took the initiative. She leans in close, her face just inches from his, and confesses that she actually wanted to be the one to kiss him. Yushin is officially at his limit. They eventually head downstairs, only to be greeted by Nanami's mom, Tomoko, and her sister, Saya. The sudden shift back to reality is a bit of a shock for both of them. The family doesn't hold back, immediately teasing them about looking like a pair of fiancés. Nanami tries to play it off, but she's clearly embarrassed by her mom's antics. Later that night, Yushin logs into his game and meets up with his friends, Baron and Canyon. He's looking for some advice on how to handle his real-life romance. Canyon, or Peach-san as he knows her, is shocked to hear how fast things are moving. She can't believe the shy guy she knows is already getting close to a popular girl. Baron-san shares some of his own wisdom, talking about how he had to drink with his father-in-law to get his approval. It sounds intense, but Yushin is taking notes. Yushin looks up to Baron as a role model and wants to be just as dependable. He realizes that building a good relationship with the parents is just as important. Peach-san asks him the big question. How often does he actually tell Nanami that he likes her? Yushin's silence says it all. He realizes that even though they're dating, he's never actually said those 3 little words out loud. The thought alone makes him start sweating. Peach-san warns him that girls get anxious if you don't express your feelings clearly. She tells him to just send a simple message if he can't say it to her face. Yushin starts spiraling, worried that a lack of communication will lead to a fatal mistake in their relationship. He's determined to fix this right now. After Peach-san logs off, Yushin is left alone with his thoughts. He knows he needs to make a move, even if it's just through a text message. He starts drafting a message on his phone, trying to find the perfect balance between sincere and cool. Ever since he types feels too stiff or just plain weird. In a moment of pure panic, he accidentally hits send on a message that just says, "I love you." He stares at the screen in horror as the read receipt pops up almost instantly. Meanwhile, we get a quick flashback to the night Nanami first met Yushin's parents. She had made a promise to herself to cherish him and make sure he felt the same way. She had properly introduced herself to his parents, even though it was a total coincidence. She wanted to clear any sins from her past and start fresh with his family. Back at school, Nanami tells her friends about the encounter. They tease her, saying it sounds like she's already asking for permission to marry their son. We see a memory of that unexpected kiss on the cheek again. It was a moment that lingered in her mind long after it happened, making her crave more. The actual meeting with his parents was quite intense. Yushin's mother, Shinobu, has a very stern and scary aura that caught Nanami off guard. Even so, seeing the affectionate way Yushin interacted with his mother left a huge impression on her. It was a bond she truly admired. Yushin's parents, Shinobu and Akira, had always been straightforward people. Seeing their son with a girl like Nanami was definitely a surprise for them. Shinobu eventually asked for Nanami's number, which was a huge step toward being accepted. Nanami was thrilled, even if she was still a bit intimidated. She also overheard the parents talking about an upcoming business trip that would leave Yushin home alone. She immediately saw an opportunity to help him out. His mother came up with a compromise. Nanami could come over and cook for him while they were away. It was the perfect win-win situation. The scene shifts to the two of them in the kitchen, cooking dinner together like a young married couple. They're both trying their best to look like they know what they're doing. Yushin's parents get a little too carried away with their approval, cheering them on from the sidelines. The young couple can't wait to escape back to her room. They finally make it back to her room, where things are a lot quieter. Yushin is still feeling the pressure of being alone with her after all that family drama. We're back to that intimate lap pillow moment. Nanami reassures him that no matter how lonely he feels, she'll always be right there by his side. Suddenly, a notification pings on her phone. She picks it up, expecting a normal message, but her heart skips a beat when she sees who it's from. There it is, plain as day on her screen. I love you. It's the message Yushin accidentally sent earlier, and it hits her like a freight train. She calls him immediately, her face turning beet red as she demands to know if he actually meant it. Yushin picks up on the other end, sounding like he's about to faint. Nanami is still on the phone, her face bright red as she processes what just happened. She admits she's never been in a relationship before, so she's been asking her own friends for advice too. She realizes that Yushin took the advice to be more expressive to heart. Even though a girl gave him the idea, she's just genuinely happy that he actually told her. Nanami gets a bit bold and asks him if he wants to say those words to her directly over the phone. She's teasing him, but her own heart is racing just as fast. Yushin finally musters up the courage, and she can hardly believe her ears. She gives him a moment to collect himself, her expression softening into something truly sweet. She finally says it back, a soft, sincere "I love you too" that makes both of them melt. It's a huge milestone for their relationship, and the relief on her face is obvious. The scene shifts to Nanami leading Yushin to her house. He's standing at the front door, looking a little intimidated by the sweet home sign and the prospect of meeting her family again. They step inside, and her mother, Tomoko, is right there to welcome them. She's all smiles, acting like it's been ages since she last saw Yushin, even though it hasn't been that long. Nanami mentions that her sister, Saya, isn't home yet because of her dance club. She looks proud of her little sister, though Yushin is just busy taking in the cozy atmosphere of her home. Nanami heads upstairs to change, leaving Yushin with her mother for a few minutes. When she comes back down, she's wearing something more comfortable, but she seems a bit tense. Yushin finds her pouting in her room and wonders what he did wrong. He asks if he can come in, feeling a bit out of place as she sits on the bed, looking away from him. He starts running through all the possible reasons why she might be mad. Did he mess up earlier? Was it something he said to her mom or about her sister? It turns out she was just a little jealous because he was being so friendly with her family. He realizes how cute she is when she's being possessive, and his own face starts to heat up. Yushin tries to lighten the mood by calling her Nanami-chan. The sudden use of her name with an honorific sends her into a blushing frenzy. Her irritation vanishes instantly, replaced by sheer embarrassment and joy. She agrees to head back downstairs to start cooking, her heart doing backflips the whole way. They get settled in the kitchen, and Nanami starts listing off a massive menu for the night. She's planned everything from mapo tofu to miso soup, acting every bit the domestic pro. Her mom and sister can't help but watch from the doorway, teasing the two of them about looking like a pair of newlyweds in their matching aprons. Nanami tries to ignore them, but she's clearly flustered. Nanami looks down at the mapo tofu packet, realizing it might be a bit advanced for a beginner like Yushin. She gives him a supportive look, ready to guide him through the process. She decides to take on the role of master chef and instructs him to be her assistant. Yushin plays along, happy to see her so enthusiastic and lively in the kitchen. From the sidelines, Saya comments on how Nanami always seems so cheerful when she's working on anything related to Yushin. Nanami tells her to stop messing around and focus on her own business. They start with the root vegetables, and Nanami shows off her impressive peeling skills. Yushin tries to follow her lead, but he's clearly struggling to keep up with her pace. Nanami notices his technique is a bit dangerous and steps in to help. She stands right behind him, guiding his hands as if it's the most natural thing in the world. Yushin is trying his best to focus on the carrots, but having her so close is making it impossible to think straight. He manages to finish a few, and she praises him for a job well done. She gets even more playful, demonstrating how to hold his hands like a cat's paws while cutting. She's leaning into the domestic girlfriend roll hard, and Yushin is just along for the ride. Saya and her mom are still watching, and the sister finally calls Nanami out for being a bit too brazen. Nanami realizes how close she's standing and immediately jumps back, apologizing profusely. Amidst the chaos, the knife slips, and Yushin accidentally cuts his finger. Nanami panics instantly, her eyes widening as she sees the blood. In a move that shocks everyone, including Yushin, she immediately grabs his finger and puts it in her mouth to stop the bleeding. The kitchen goes dead silent as the sister runs to get the first aid kit. Yushin is frozen in place, his face redder than the mapo tofu. Nanami eventually realizes what she just did and starts stammering, her cool facade completely shattered. Saya returns with the medical kit, and they get him patched up. Nanami is still apologizing, but Yushin is just relieved that the wound wasn't actually that deep. Once the drama subsides, they finally finish the meal. Her mom watches them with a warm smile, commenting on how well they work together and what a great husband Yushin would make. After eating way too much, Nanami is practically in a food coma. She stretches out and flops on her bed, completely ignoring the fact that Yushin is still right there. Tomoko is caught on camera, or maybe she's the one recording, capturing the wholesome moment. She's thrilled that her plan to leave them alone to cook worked out so well. Nanami sits up and asks Yushin if his finger still hurts. She leans in close again, checking the bandage with a worried expression that makes his heart skip a beat. She gets a bit too close for comfort, and, for a second, it looks like she might do something even more bold. Yushin is staring at her, completely captivated by how intense she's acting. She suddenly asks if he wants to lie down with her. The suggestion catches him completely off guard, and he starts stammering, his mind racing with all sorts of scenarios. Just as the tension reaches a breaking point, a knock at the door ruins the moment. Nanami quickly pulls back, trying to look composed as she answers. It's Saya, coming in with a tray of tea and some fancy chocolates as an apology for her teasing earlier. The two of them look like they just got caught doing something they shouldn't have. Saya apologizes to her big brother Yushin for being so annoying. He tells her it's fine, though he's actually a bit relieved for the interruption. They start digging into the chocolates, and Yushin is impressed by how high-class they taste. He realizes he's really becoming part of the family dynamic here. Once Saya leaves again, the room goes quiet. Nanami looks at him, asking if he actually preferred being alone with her rather than having her sister around. She leans her head against his shoulder, her eyes closed in contentment. Yushin can feel her warmth, and he realizes how much he actually enjoys these quiet moments with her. Nanami suddenly changes the subject, asking him if he likes fish. He's a bit confused by the random question, wondering if she's already planning tomorrow's menu. She starts talking about how her mom used to make soy-glazed fish and how she wants to try making it for him next time. She's already looking forward to their next cooking session together. Back in her room, Nanami leans her head on her hand, looking at Yushin with a sweet, expectant gaze. She asks him if he thinks she'd make for a good wife one day. Yushin, caught off guard by the bold question, blushes and replies that she'd probably make for a good mother too. The suggestion sends Nanami into a complete meltdown of embarrassment. Nanami starts pouting and waving her arms around, whining that it's unfair for him to say things like that. Her face is a bright shade of pink as she tries to hide her joy behind her complaints. Once she calms down, she sits back on the bed and starts fiddling with her phone. Yushin watches her, curious about the sudden shift in her mood and wondering what she's looking at. She finally reveals why she's been acting so nervous, holding up 2 tickets for the aquarium. She explains that her mother won them and gave them to her. Yushin is so embarrassed by the roundabout way she asked him out that he practically folds himself in half on the floor. Nanami is just as flustered, apologizing for being so awkward about it. Taking a deep breath, she holds the tickets out properly and officially asks if he'd like to go on an aquarium date with her. Yushin looks up, his eyes bright, as he immediately agrees. They both feel a huge weight lift off their shoulders. They start discussing whether to go on Saturday or tomorrow, but their conversation is interrupted by a persistent buzzing from Nanami's phone. Nanami checks the message, and her expression quickly turns from excitement to disappointment. She tells Yushin that something has come up and they might not be able to go tomorrow after all. The next day, instead of the aquarium, they find themselves at a high-end hair salon. A stylish man with striking black and white hair greets them with a warm, energetic smile. The stylist, Toru-san, immediately takes a liking to Yushin, pulling him into a very personal and unexpected hug. Yushin is completely frozen, unsure of how to react to such a touchy stranger. Nanami stands back, looking completely unfazed by the display. She's wearing a sharp shirt and tie, looking quite mature as she watches the two of them interact. Toru-san and Yushin are still in each other's personal space. Nanami casually mentions that Toru-san is married, so Yushin doesn't need to worry about any unwanted advances. She introduces Toru-san as the owner of the salon and someone she respects a lot. Toru-san laughs off the awkward introduction, apologizing for startling the young man. Toru-san gestures toward the barber chair, asking if they're ready to get started. The scene then flashes back to the previous night to explain how they ended up here. In the flashback, Nanami is sitting in her room, looking troubled by a message she received from her friend Hatsumi. She's clearly torn about something and doesn't know how to bring it up to Yushin. She eventually asks Yushin if he would be willing to escort her to the salon the next day. She explains that they need someone to model for a new style they're working on. She shows him a message chain, explaining that she feels indebted to Toru-san and wants to help out. Yushin looks at the screen, trying to process the idea of being a model. Yushin is hesitant, worried that someone like him would stand out in a negative way at a fancy salon. Nanami won't hear it, insisting that he shouldn't put himself down like that. She gets a little carried away with the idea, blushing as she imagines just how handsome Yushin will look once he's had a professional makeover. Back in the present, Nanami is cheering him on, her hands clasped together in excitement. Yushin, fueled by her enthusiasm, resolves to go through with it and do his absolute best. He finally settles into the barber chair, looking stiff and nervous as Toru-san prepares his tools. The atmosphere in the salon is lively, but Yushin is a ball of anxiety. Toru-san starts working his magic, commenting on how average Yushin seems and wondering how he managed to snag a girl like Nanami. Yushin can only offer a weak, embarrassed apology. They start talking about Nanami's past and how she used to be quite wary of boys. Toru-san mentions that her friends, Hatsumi and Ayumi, were surprised when she started dating someone. Yushin looks at his reflection, his expression turning serious. He admits that he knows he's not much to look at, but he still wants to be someone who can stand proudly by Nanami's side. Toru-san is touched by his sincerity, calling him cute for being so dedicated to her. He promises to make sure Yushin looks every bit the man Nanami chose. Nanami and her friends are watching from a distance, looking peaceful and happy. Toru-san's aura suddenly shifts as he gets serious, vowing to give Yushin the best haircut of his life. A montage shows the transformation in progress. Scissors snip and the hairdryer roars as Toru-san works with practiced precision, slowly revealing a new side of Yushin. The actual cutting is finished, and Toru-san starts gathering styling products from his cart. He tells Yushin that they still have a bit more work to do to achieve the perfect look. He pulls out some hair wax, his eyes gleaming with an intense, almost scary energy. Yushin watches him warily, wondering what the final touch is going to involve. Toru-san explains that since Yushin is quite lean, a shorter, more textured style will really suit him. Yushin looks in the mirror, barely recognizing the person staring back at him. He's genuinely amazed by the results, thanking Toru-san profusely. The stylist is just happy that his client is satisfied with the new look. Toru-san puts a supportive hand on Yushin's shoulder, telling him to be proud of himself. He reminds him that he's the one Nanami chose, so he should carry himself with confidence. Nanami's friends, Hatsumi and Ayumi, come over to inspect the work. They're both incredibly impressed, commenting on how fresh and handsome Yushin looks now. Nanami is standing nearby, her face buried in her hands. She can barely look at him without blushing, her eyes sparkling with pure adoration as she tells him how good he looks. She suddenly gets a little worried, realizing that if he looks this good, other girls might start hitting on him. Toru-san just laughs at her sudden possessiveness. Yushin bows politely, thanking everyone for their help and hard work. He feels like a completely different person than the one who walked in a few hours ago. As they prepare to leave, the group chats about how well everything turned out. Nanami is still reeling from the shock of seeing him so styled up. Before they go, Turu-san hands Yushin some styling wax for free, telling him he'll need it to maintain the look. He jokes about being the one to do their hair for their wedding one day. The scene jumps to the next day. Yushin is running through the city, checking his phone in a panic. It's 9:27, and he's worried about being late for their rescheduled date. He finally arrives at the meeting spot near a large fountain. He's out of breath, but pumped up, his new haircut still looking sharp as he waits for Nanami to appear. Suddenly, he hears a familiar voice. Nanami arrives, looking absolutely stunning in a fashionable outfit. She waves to him with a bright smile, apologizing for making him wait. Nanami arrives for their date looking absolutely stunning, and Yushin is immediately struck by how much effort she put into her appearance. He can't help but think her outfit is a bit daring, which only makes him more flustered. With a nervous but happy smile, Yushin suggests they get moving. He's determined to make this date a wonderful experience for both of them, feeling a surge of confidence from his new look. As they start walking, Nanami takes Yushin's arm, pulling him close. She's beaming with excitement. Her energetic attitude, a sharp contrast to Yushin's internal panic at the sudden physical contact. Yushin tries to keep his cool, telling her she looks incredibly pretty today. The compliment makes Nanami's heart skip a beat, though she tries to act natural as they continue their walk. He's still struggling with the close proximity, mentioning that her grip on his arm is a little tight. Nanami, however, seems completely unbothered, her eyes wide with anticipation for the day ahead. She looks up at him with an unusually assertive expression, asking if he's feeling okay. Yushin can only offer a weak smile, realizing that he's the one who's out of his depth. They arrive at the entrance of the aquarium, and Nanami's excitement only grows. She practically drags him toward the ticket counter, her energy infectious despite Yushin's lingering nerves. At the counter, the receptionist smiles warmly at the lovebirds. Nanami's ears turn bright red, her embarrassment betraying her confident exterior as she takes the pamphlets. Nanami tries to play it off, stuttering as she refers to Yushin as her boyfriend. It's only been 2 weeks since they started dating, and the reality of their relationship is still sinking in. Yushin watches her, thinking about how incredibly cute she is when she's flustered. He takes a pamphlet as well, his eyes scanning the different exhibits they can visit. The receptionist recommends the dolphin and penguin exhibits, pointing out that they're popular spots for couples. She also mentions the option to rent raincoats for the splash zones. Yushin looks at a map of the aquarium, a sudden sense of déjà vu washing over him. He wonders aloud if he's been here before, perhaps back in elementary school, though his memories are hazy. Nanami notices his distraction and asks if anything is wrong. He quickly reassures her, saying he was just wondering about something, and they prepare to finally enter the main part of the aquarium. They walk through the entrance together, Nanami's excitement reaching a fever pitch. She tells him she's glad he came, and Yushin feels a warm glow in his chest as he agrees. The inside of the aquarium is breathtaking, with massive tanks filled with colorful fish. Nanami's face lights up with wonder as she looks at the marine life, her eyes wide with joy. They move from one exhibit to another, fascinated by the different species. They stop at a tank with garden eels, laughing at how expressive and funny the little creatures look as they pop out of the sand. Nanami finds the garden eels particularly cute, and Yushin agrees, though he thinks she's much cuter. He captures the moment on his phone, snapping a picture of her as she makes a heart shape with her hands. She insists on taking one of him too, but Yushin is hesitant, still not used to being the center of attention. They share a light-hearted moment of bickering over who should be the subject of the next photo. They continue their tour, passing by a giant tank filled with sharks and rays. The sheer scale of the aquarium is impressive, and they both feel like kids again as they explore every corner. An announcement for the dolphin show catches their attention, and they decide to head that way. Yushin realizes that the outfit Turu-san gave him is actually quite comfortable, which has helped him stay at ease. Nanami suddenly makes a bold suggestion, asking if she can call him Daddy, since he looks so much like her father in his new outfit. The idea sends Yushin into a state of total shock. She quickly realizes how weird that sounded and tries to take it back, her face turning a deep shade of crimson. They both find themselves in a state of mutual embarrassment as they try to regain their composure. In the midst of their awkward moment, a young girl suddenly runs up and grabs onto Yushin's leg, calling him Daddy. The entire situation descends into comedic chaos as Yushin tries to figure out what's happening.